Hello, today for review I've got interesting in-ear monitors. It's Shanling's ME80. Shanling decided to enter more affordable segment and they released single dynamic driver model with price set at $100 plus minus. It depends on taxes and customs in some countries, but actually it's about $100 and it's done in the Shanling's traditional style with good dynamic driver, aluminum shell and silver plated cable, so a really interesting model. They also announced high-end model that I will review a bit later, but today we will focus on this affordable model. I don't know what to say else in this introduction, so let's proceed to the review itself. Package is pretty big, so Shanling really tries to do more premium package, better presentation, so you can see nice looking with good polygraphy. On the back side technical specifications, so 10mm dynamic driver, interchangeable cable, 16 ohms of impedance, 111 decibels of sensitivity, so not too high, not too low, basically well balanced specs for the affordable segment. Inside there is internal box, and here one will get earphones itself. So manual, set of tips, and probably we need to pull this part out to simplify digging our way to the earpieces. So we can push them from the rear side. You will get two different set of tips, so balanced and vocal ones, and additional pair of unknown tips. I don't know why always Chinese manufacturers make me think what I need more, vocal or balanced, so it's always a problem. Nice case with magnet clapper and stock cable with a line of Velcro. Actually, clapper is a Russian name for that, so it's a flip, so flip on the magnet. And in terms of design, they are nice. They are built of aluminium and looks pretty premium. So let's remove this protective films. You can see nice glass-like faceplates with company's logos. Really comfortable shells, looks nice, fitting really well in ears. There is a pressure relief hole, so it means additional comfort in wearing. And second pressure relief hole, sound isolation is about average. It will be enough for public transport or for noisy street, but probably not for the subway or for plane travel, but with proper tips probably they can work even in this situation. Build quality is really nice, everything assembled really well. There is a lip for holding the tips, protective grill, so nice, nothing super fancy, but really well built in-ear monitor's shell. Stock cable done in non-audiophilic style. Here used MMCX connectors, nice with pretty good click with really good grip, so hopefully they will serve for quite a long time. There are ear hooks to reduce the microphone effect, and cable itself is made in silicone isolation. It's braided inside, but there is a common isolation about over both wires. It goes to the splitter, and from splitter it goes braided down to the jack, so you can see that there are strain reliefs, splitter and chin slider made of metal. They are done in similar slides, so cable looks pretty nice. It's almost not getting hard when it's cold outside. Microphonic effect is low, so pretty nice cable. And in terms of design, presentation, package, accessory set, and all that other stuff, earphones are done on a really good level. And of course about the sound, I burned them in for 48 hours and there were slight changes during first hour or two, but in general I don't think that it makes much sense in burning them in separately. So if you decide to buy them, you just can start listening them and enjoying, so sound will settle really fast. Of course, it will require finding a proper tips. I prefer balanced a bit more, well, because balanced is usually better. And you need to find the proper size, because for the dynamic drivers it's really important. It's important for many models, but I don't know why, but at least for me, single dynamic drivers are most depending on the feed quality and isolation. Let's have some player on the table to show the examples. I decided that this time I will make it uni-brand. So for Shanling in-ear monitors I will use Shanling's M80. Also because it was on top of stack in my drawer. Anyway, in terms of sound, I think no one will object that Shanling is a really experienced company with a lot of experience in tuning with their vision of signature sound, and they've implemented that all in this model. Despite affordable price segment, it delivers fun, engaging sound, and they definitely trying to squish the maximum of characteristic representation of dynamic drivers. So they have a pretty big fat bass, but at the same time it's not a bass head model. They have slightly reduced mids and accented treble, so they decided to make a fun representation, and I really like that they didn't decide to go the traditional tuning with recessed treble. They make half of that traditional tuning with accented low frequencies and a bit of additional weight on mids, but they decided also to boost treble a little bit to add more clarity, and that gives fruitful results. And let's proceed step by step. So bass is accented, it has, but not too much, so like it's the average accent nowadays. It has a really good depth, it controls well, of course for the dynamic driver. Don't expect the balanced armature speed and don't expect perfect control, but control is overall nice. Just on the fastest tracks with a lot of instruments in the low frequency domain, they show that it's still affordable model and it's a dynamic driver. But on vast majority of music they show really good texturing, nice control, and bass is really pleasant with good impact and really good weight and slam. It suits really good for electronic music, at least to my taste, because I'm not a fan of really bass heavy tuning. And it plays pretty nicely with real instruments because they have that small overtones and nuances. And as an example, I've selected Juno Reactor Tempest. I often use this track as a test for the deepest and lowest layers of bass because they have that rumbling and bass that travels from left to right in the beginning, and it's a really good bass. And in main part, of course, they have the traditional nice engaging bass line, and it builds a really good contrast with accented upper mids and giving a really pleasant experience in listening. And at the same time, with acoustic instruments, they also show the pretty good control and really good gives really good sense of realism. They lacking a bit of small overtones, but it's expectable for the model from the entry segment. And mids are a bit recessed, but still they are controlled pretty well. It's a good dynamic drivers with normal resolution, not focused on the micro contrast, not trying to give you to highlight smallest nuances. but at the same time playing and delivering really nice amount of details. So instrument sounds really realistic, as well as vocals. They show the good level of emotion saturation, and also they giving a bit of additional weight to the instruments and vocals, and usually it gives pleasant touch of analog signature. And they are not super critical for the quality of records. Probably this model was tuned this way because it's targeted towards mass market and towards the wider audience. So the goal was to deliver the sound for the broad audience, and Shanling succeeds here. Imagery stage is slightly above average both in width and in depth, but layering is pretty realistic, so it's not the most spacious, but of course it's not super intimate neither. They have a good macro dynamics too. And as an example for the mid frequencies, what I actually got for the mid frequencies. Yep, the last Refugee. Roger Waters, of course, in 2017 of his voice his voice already was not in the best shape, or not at the highest levels of performance. Actually, what age he was? Pretty old, but still really good music. At the end, it's the one of the two not creators, but one of the two main drivers of Pink Floyd, so you can expect good music, nice tunes, and a lot of sense put into the lyrics, and that's what this song delivers. And of course good technical earphones required to enjoy that at the full scale, and Shanling ME80 suits nicely. And the treble I like here most of all. I'm a fan of beat boosted treble, and that model delivers that. So if you're super treble sensitive, probably it's not a model for you, but still, despite of the accent, they stays comfortable for me in terms of amount. And what is interesting here, they have above average extension, surprisingly good for this segment. Not comparable to the flagship models, but still good for this segment. Treble is pretty saturated, but at the same time, thanks to the dynamic driver nature, they're not sounding too sharp or too lightweight. It's normal in terms of resolution, and a bit slower in attacks and decays than they should be, but still performs really well, showing pleasant overtone saturation. Of course, no rich layering, but that's probably something we can expect in this segment, and basically playing nicely basic tones and basic overtones, so really pleasant treble that I enjoy. And as an example for the treble playlist, Hugh Laurie's Careless Love, with nice fortepiano introduction, with a lot of overtones going to the high-pitched domain, and sounding, thanks to this earphones boosted treble, sounding really pleasant and really saturated. And in terms of pairing, they can be used with smartphones, they can be used with some entry-level dubs, and probably, they can scale pretty well up to the mid-segment, so up to Shanling M6, and of course all that wide range of Shanling dubs, Q1, all versions of M2, M3, M5, they will be a really good pairing together, and they sound pretty well with M8, but of course it's a bit overhead for them. Speaking about the conversions, just a few models, because not much sense in comparing them with hybrids, because hybrids usually more focused on the micro contrast and sounding less weighty. But there are a few dynamic drivers in this segment, let's say KBER Diamond. Diamond is a bit more weighty on mids, and Diamond has more recessed treble, giving overall darker signature, while this one is more V-shaped. And I recently reviewed Weezer's new dynamic drivers in a pretty similar price segment, but with a bit less V-shaped, with bit less depth on the base and a bit less treble, so bit closer to neutrality, but also not natural. I don't know, Fio's FD1, for example, also single dynamic driver, sounding more aggressive, more focused on the micro details and brighter and a bit drier on the low frequencies and on the overall sonic spectrum. I didn't test popular models like Belsing release in this affordable segment. TFZ number 3 that I've tested also warmer, darker with less treble. So, to summarize everything, Shanling released a really pleasant, well-balanced model for those who like V-shaped dynamic drivers but with good technical performance. So, thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and have a nice day, of course.